oh, I actually wrote a song that is catchy or working, or like what made it good in your mind?
I don't know.
You
I
just
have
like
no
the vibe?
idea. I think that I think maybe I just kind of let go of the outcome. That was really what it was.
I gotcha.
Let it go of the outcome. Appreciated the you know, what I was hearing. I incorporated a lot of, stuff I had heard in the past 6 months that I liked. I was like, oh, I'm going to play something that I learned from this or something that I heard this. And, I don't know what sound I want on this. And then, like, I turned on the TV. I was like, oh, that sound is, like, that commercial had something I liked. Let's put that in there. Like,
Nice.
Just kind of was present in the moment of life and kind of spoke to the time that I was just, like, existing in. And so I think that, made it... made it interesting, made it cool, and I kept playing it for people, and they were like, "Huh," and I would go, "Yeah."
Wait, so when did you start? Because you were saying social anxiety earlier, so you move into composition here.
Yeah.
Now you're producing, which can be in the background too.
Right.
Like when you were producing, though, were you ever producing for other people, or were you producing for yourself mostly?
Mostly producing for myself. I have a thing about, I've always had a thing about ownership. That's why we're kind of like in the Web3 thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've started to become a little bit territorial, maybe just, and also, artists can be a little demanding, and I kind of like didn't really like the relationship. You have all these gifts, right? And, the artist is like, you should put a frog sound in there.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then they're kind of getting indignant with you because they're not explaining things and they don't know where C is, and, but and it was bothersome to me because it was like, well, if I put in all these work and I have all these skills, and then you get the plays and the accolades and the plaques, and then I have to tell people that I played for you or that I did this for you, but I get like $500 or something like that, like the way they did the guys that produced for A$AP Rocky or that kind of like scenario. I was like, I'm not really into that. I'd rather kind of like, and I kind of had my own artistic vision anyway, and I was like, oh, I can just produce for myself, and I'll just keep it. Well,
wait,
that.
they fixed it with producers. You just have to have a really long producer tag. That's the key.
Yeah,
for
right.
like DJ Khaled, who's not even a real producer.
Yeah.
40 producer tags, right? Just upper reality back again.
I probably have like 3 or 4 different tags, but like with AI or like Lala, and that kind of stuff, it kind of like is,
Oh, the producer tags are being AI generated, right? No, meaning that there's 2 things happening.
Oh, no, I mean that you could just stem split it off.
Yeah.
It's
no,
like,
totally.
snap.
Yeah.
But actually, my initial kind of like, slogan was, I make beats and then I sing over them so people don't steal them. So in a sense, the song was the producer tag.
Totally.
Started out at first.
It's a little deeper than a little clip there.
Right. I mean, in a sense, it's 40 producer tags. It's like 16 bars of producer tags.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how I kind of got around that whole vibe,
So was Austin like the main place where you first were like really tapping into like one music scene, or?
Yeah, I would say Austin was the first music scene that I tapped into. I think that there's a lot of talented musicians out there, but I think it's a little old-headed in some ways. Like there were like a lot of like Eminem devotees.
Oh, really?
It was like hip hop. It was like, and I think I did struggle to an extent to establish myself, like the kind of sound that I wanted to do, because I wasn't necessarily a jazz musician, but I also kind of didn't feel it was necessarily respectful or accurate to say what I was doing was hip hop either, because I think that that's a genre that speaks to a voice of a time, of a place, none of which I had a really strong connection to. So it felt maybe a little disingenuous to sit there and try to say I was making hip hop when I was making beats perhaps, but were they hip hop beats? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But it all kind of changed up. It kind of turned around again. I studied abroad in South Africa in 2016. And so I got introduced to like a whole new market with just a whole new sound and a whole new set of like folks and musicians that can play their ass off, and jams that sound a certain way, that have a certain cadence and things like that.
So how'd you end up in South Africa?
So that was for my econ degree as well. I was,
That's how you go to South Africa? I was a music degree and I'm going nowhere, okay? So that was the key? You got it like...
I think so.
Like, you're going to make money in the future. We'll send you somewhere, actually.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened, actually. I was in a scholarship program, and they highly encourage everybody to study abroad. And they're like, well, yeah, we'll throw you a stipend, just go. Okay, sure. And
wait, so did you pick South Africa then?
Well, yes and no. I wanted to go back to Brazil, but when I went to my department head and told her, I was like, hey, I want to go back to study in Brazil, but some of these classes, like, they the classes are not transferring over to my degree plan. Mm-hmm. Like, what's up with that? And she was like, oh, well, look, it's just in these Latin American countries, they teach based on this like totally debunked, economic theory, dependency theory. I'm not sure if you heard of it. It's really not like sound at all in actual science. It's something about what developed countries exploiting developing countries or something. So it's just totally off base. We don't, but it's okay. Yeah, you don't have to really worry about that because it's been disproven in so many different ways. And I just kind of looked at her and she looked at me and she was like, well, in South Africa, they speak English. And I said, okay, whatever.
So that was it. The next option, you took it though.
Yeah, I mean, South Africa borders Mozambique, and then it's like a hop, skip, and jump from Angola, and those are both Portuguese-speaking countries. So
Gotcha.
I figured I was like I could find some kind of inflection point that would make sense.
Gotcha.
When I got there, it was a great scene. That scene I got into as pretty extensively.
What was what was there a culture shock or like what was new and different about it than I guess what like you used to before?
Well, okay. First of all, there's Cape Town, there's Johannesburg. I was in Cape Town. That's an important distinction to make. Cape Town is an interesting place. Yeah, I mean it's really racist. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. Like it's.
I've heard things.
No, they have very, very, very talented musicians. I'll say that. Like a few of the musicians that I met there, like a couple of years later, ended up going to Berkeley.
Oh, awesome!
Like they had like their sponsorships and their own study abroads, and I think the scene was very like, I don't know, I wouldn't say hippie-ish, but it was very like go with the flow. It was almost like surfer-ish. Cape Town, honestly, like it in LA kind of like have some similarities in terms of like it's kind of cosmopolitan in that there's a lot of different cultures, but they're all like quite a lot separated, and there's kind of like this unspoken culture of what gets to kind of be a part of the center and what kind of has to exist in the periphery, all that different kinds of stuff. But then, you get in touch with these cool scenes and, the way that just people are, you just like, vibing in these various, just kind of holes in the wall that you find. Yeah. There was, now I'm trying to like recollect it actually. There was like kind of a confluence, like it was kind of, you could see the U.S. influence, but then there was like a lot of European influence as well. And then there was a lot of like folks from other countries in Africa, like college students that like would come down to go to UCT. So I learned, I got in touch with like a lot of people, especially like African diaspora that I hadn't before. And everything was remarkably like, you can meet with minds and spirits. It wasn't like just so incredibly foreign that, y'all couldn't talk or y'all couldn't relate with each other. But, it was cool.
So how did you, because for me, it's like, if I went somewhere, another country and I'm there for econ, how do I break in the music scene? So like, what'd you bring with you of gear? How do you find your first jam session? I'd be awkwardly.
Oh, that's so interesting how you asked me that. Okay. Good question. Okay. So South Africa, UCT is separated into 3 parts. So upper campus, middle campus, lower campus. Upper campus was where like all the econ and business stuff was. Lower campus was where the music stuff was. And so basically you had to go from upper campus to lower campus to catch the bus to go back to your house. But at UCT there was like extreme like, I don't mean extreme in a bad way. It was actually quite exhilarating. But like the activism was like going up. Like they were shutting down school, like classes. They were burning things. Like at one point, like we couldn't go to class because one of the buses had gotten burnt to a crisp to nothing. The decolonization movement there was deeply inspiring in equal parts. Like it was destabilizing, which was an interesting opportunity because it's like, well, class is canceled today, so I might as well go practice. Yeah. So it kind of started like that. But then I think that the music and youth culture there was a little bit more kind of like tight. Like when you go to a place like LA, for example, or this is definitely a way that the two places differ. The people kind of like what they do with their lives and then like what they do with their music lives are kind of separate. But it kind of really wasn't like that in Cape Town. Like, so at that time, one of the like coolest jams in town was also one of the coolest places to hang out. So everybody went and hung out there and everybody went there to jam. So you had like the activists and the, the business people and all these other folks that, would come, but then you had the jam. So everybody knew about it kind of like intrinsically. So that, I got invited. It was called the Great Wazoo. I got invited, by a lot of different people. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll pull up to the Great Wazoo. And, it was a jam just like any other jam. I mean, I think it was pretty deep. I really enjoyed the jams at that time.
But still, there's a cool spot. Everyone's there. We got, like you're saying, the activists, is a cool scene. But then it's all of a sudden, how do you go from, I'll play? Like, how did you, just first like step up? That's it. You just were like, let me get up there. And
I'm spiritual, like quite a lot like that though. Like people, like I'm the person that's just going to be like, hey, what's up? I'll play.
Yeah, well, you did do it on Thursday, so yeah. So okay.
It was definitely like my element where I'm just going to like kind of go for it.
Yeah.
It's something, it's fairly easy to me. I'm just going to like walk up and do it. One thing that also kind of happened at the same time, which was really interesting, was like Cape Town Jazz Fest is every March or April. So there was actually a jam like kind of at that fest after party that kind of we all kind of ended up at the same place as well. So people kind of like knew me a little bit because I was kind of going forward with this particular event. So then, Great Wazoo was kind of starting up, and this is where, just kind of got in the mix, got to know people, got to, just kind of shoot the shit, if you will. Yeah. And, again, like my classmates in econ and my, people that I was meeting in lower campus, everybody was kind of like there at the same time. So we were enjoying ourselves, just, getting to know each other, getting to learn. And, as far as like what I took to there though, I took like a pocket, like I think in like an Akai something keyboard. Cool. And then I took like my laptop and like I took like a mic, and then that was pretty much it. Nice. I wasn't like heavy into guitar at the time. I'm more into guitar now than I was at that time. But that was kind of like, what I did to kind of establish or, make stuff and show people and like let them know I exist type thing.
So how did you, like when you actually, this is pure curiosity too, I'm just in my head being a young musician and being scared of every jam that's new, right? I remember the first time I'm like, we're jamming with the older jazz cats, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to learn way more tunes. I don't know enough tunes, things like that.
Yeah.
What was like different than what you had done before? Like, was there, or it was just, boom, another jam session. This is all making sense.
What was different? I think every jam session is different for me. Because I think you do have the ones where people want to play the chords and vibe like off this progression. And then you got the ones that are like, okay, all right, guys, Wayne Shorter, we're going to turn it down 3 half steps. Let's get it. Like, and I personally don't thrive very well in those jams because, again, I didn't go directly to jazz school. It's like I never had really incentive to like learn like those jazz standards beyond like, thumbing through a real book or something like that. So I really preferred like, just kind of listening to the progression and just being like, okay, I'm going to play this now. All right, going to do this. And then I'm done. I'm going to go hang out kind of thing. So it was maybe a bigger difference was that there was a lot of young people in this jam, I say. I wouldn't say there was like a lot of older cats. There was a couple that would come through, but it wasn't like, I would say there wasn't as thick of a hierarchy at this particular jam, especially because everybody was kind of there vibing. Like it was more of a, now you had people who tried to make it like that, but those people typically didn't, they didn't really gel with, that particular thing. But again, South Africa is racist, and they had this thing that they would do basically when it was like enough a congregation of folks that they didn't really want congregating, they would like do a zoning. And so zoning basically means like, oh, this place is not actually zoned for this particular activity or this thing. Oh, it has to be rezoned. So they turned the Great Wazoo into a ballet school, and that was the end. Yeah,
I was gonna say that's a good like white replacement right there. It's like ballet school, okay?
I felt like they just turned it all the way up. Like they could turn it to anything else, and I was like, okay, we get it.
Wait, so did that happen while you were there?
So it's interesting because I actually went there in 2 parts. I was there like first half of 2016 and then the last half of 2017.
Okay, cool.
So like I was there January 2016 to June 2016, and then when I got back in June 2017, it was like maybe July of 2017 that they did it.
Okay, gotcha.
And then we were there for like the last night. It was like the craziest night of all time. And like everybody was there. It was like in the thick of it like this. It was holy.
Getting stuff shut down, it's sad because I've been in a couple like venue shutdowns. It's like the most saddest moment, but also it's always that huge celebration of every person comes out of retirement and they're all there, and it's like
absolutely
vibes are electric, but then it's always sad at the same time. So
right.
So when you came back, where'd you go back to? You going back to Austin?
So my hometown is Dallas, actually.
Oh, okay,
so
cool.
I only went back to like renew my visa. Remember, Trump became president, so I was trying to get the hell on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I came back to the United States trying to renew the visa. But it was just like a chore. Like the guy was just not feeling me. Yeah. Like he kept sending me back to go find like different documents. And every time I would give him a new document, he'd like ask for another document. Yeah. He was just getting on my nerves. And you kept having to go to DC. Like DC was the place to do it. They didn't have a consulate in Dallas. And it was just a big chore.
Those are slightly far away too.
Yeah, and I wasn't like so desperate to go to South Africa that I needed to, keep doing all of this. So I was just like, I'm just going to park it. Let's just like chill and just see, how things unfold. So I ended up taking like a job at Guitar Center as a lessons instructor.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so I was there in Dallas for like some time doing that, and I started doing jams down in Dallas as well.
Oh, cool.
And also throughout all this time, I'm like releasing projects. Like I released a project like every year since 2015, pretty much.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah. The first one I left on SoundCloud, but the rest of them are like all on Spotify, And so each one is supposed to kind of like represent an epoch of my life and my thoughts and, my production styles and just the things that I've learned based on, culture and humanity and shit, But
the projects are always solo, right? For these ones?
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm like...
so you're playing everything, you're producing it, you're recording
it. I'm singing everything. I'm sending it off to master, basically.
Okay, nice.
And...
We have AI for that now, so you can do it's all you now, okay?
Right. But actually, I don't know if he wants me to mention his name, actually. But I got a very, 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 very strong friend of mine, good plug, that does really killer mastering. So I tend to keep that person. But
beautiful. It's an insane skill. It is like I've sat with him and I'm like, what are you hearing? How are your ears this good?
Yeah,
like,
I send it to master and I get it back and I'm like, did I even record that? Did you re-record my voice? Did you AI my voice? Like that's like crazy. But anyway, so I was in South Africa I was in Dallas teaching in 2018, and then I kind of started getting more into guitar because basically it's a long-winded story. I'll be really petty and I'll say. In South Africa, I was like seeing someone who was very, very brilliant guitarist, but a little self-centered. Like we can all kind of admit it now. And so I kind of came back with a little chip on my shoulder, like okay, so guitar is so much harder and you're so much better at it than me playing keys. All right, I'll show you. And I started playing guitar more. But
you learned out of spite. That's good. That's a good reason.
Right.
That's okay. That's a great way to learn something.
It's interesting because it's like. I say, you can say you can learn out of spite, or you can say I became this in spite of that, all of that different kinds of stuff. But
maybe you can talk.
It's interesting because it was a project that I probably would have left alone if not for working at Guitar Center, and there was another like incredibly prolific, incredibly self-absorbed guitarist that happened to be there. No relation, but it just was a thing. And one day I walked in and he was gone, and my manager was like, "Hey, you ever played the banjo before?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Oh no, the guitar instructor was fired because he was like very, very arrogant towards a kid or something. He almost like shoved a kid out the way or did some kind of mess, and so he ended up getting fired. And so like that day, my roster added like 30 guitar students and like 2 banjo students.
Okay,
and I was
you
like,
started with teaching. You knew some already.
Yeah,
you obviously already have skills, and they were like, fill it in, and then boom, you're
right. And it was like, okay, all right, sure. And they're like, well, the lesson's at 6. Here, just get a book. This is it's Guitar Center. You can go grab a book. It's sitting right there. Nice. It's like okay, all right, I'll just do this now. And so, the whole point of teaching is you want to make sure you're kind of just like a week ahead of the person.
That's all that matters.
So I'm like, okay, just learn a little bit more. But I started really enjoying guitar and just like how the layout is and made my production better. I felt like
totally. Yeah.
And I was going down to Dallas and doing jams with like these people were kind of like in proximity with Erykah Badu. So she was kind of like the epicenter, although she never really was there in person. But that was kind of like the social hierarchy was proximity to her.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the bass player for Erykah Badu.
Yeah,
we're jamming with that guy. Totally.
Exactly. Yes. And so I was kind of like in that mix and trying to like learn with those jams, and that was a very different culture than let's say the one in Cape Town because these people were older, they had more accolades, but they had less education, and like. And that's not to say that they were dumb, but it is to say that I don't think that they were like as comfortable with themselves in some way. There is a certain kind of like comfort that like going and like pursuing your degree and like getting it has or whatever that these people were just not having. And it made it just some of these people acted crazy, they don't like somebody, they're going to start messing up on a jam on purpose, just like a bunch of crap, very crabs in a barrel mentality. But these are some of the best musicians in the world. Dallas has some of the best musicians in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I always tell this story. It's like, what do you call it? Oh, hey, one of our locals, he comes here all the time. He's really, really dope. It's his birthday today. He's turning 14. Everybody, welcome JD Beck. Yeah, woo. And I'm like, I don't know who this guy is from a can of paint. Yeah. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, word. Okay. Like, these are the folks.
Well, why do you think that is, though? Why is Dallas producing such good musicians?
Why do I think Dallas is producing such?
Because usually you think about it, like, there's always cities like where you can play live a lot. Like, that's why Austin seems like there's such a live music culture there that if you start young, you can start playing a lot of gigs, right? New York, same. It's easy to proximity. If I'm in a small little town, I can't just, what am I going to play? You know what I mean? So it's like,
I don't, because like it's interesting because like I don't think Dallas's live music scene is like very hot at all, really. I can't like think of like a place where people can really kind of incubate like they can like either in Austin or New York. I know UNT is right there, so I think perhaps maybe that might have something to do with it. And I know Denton has, in general, like North by Northwest and that kind of like vibe and scene. And that's, and then of course there's Booker T. Washington High, which is kind of like, there's some folks that went through there. I'm pretty sure, did Roy Hargrove go to, I almost feel like he did. Just, I think, I really don't know where the chicken or egg is on that. That's a good question. I have no idea.
I've actually never heard someone be like, Dallas is making the best musicians, which is like, I've just never thought of it.
Hands down, the best musicians of the world are in Dallas. You'll go there and these guys, but the thing is, right, it's not relatable because again, these guys have a chip on their shoulder and it's a mess. So they'll be sitting there playing. I've seen a guy, one of the best drummers I've ever seen, different one, clear a room out just because he's, I was going to say hematomas, hemiola. Yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah. Dog, we got it. Like, so
it's hard. If we get a lot of the best musicians in the world, they want to show everyone they're the best musicians in the world, which might be, well, the solo is the best way. Let me just play just me focus on me.
Right, exactly.
I'm a guitar player. You know how it is.
And that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. Where it's like, everybody's playing up to here, like, literally sticks to ears, like vibes. But basically, I still learned a lot, like skills wise. Like it really pushed me to be grow myself as a player, grow my theory, grow my chord structures, like grow my kind of like ear to the pantheon, like trying to just listen to and grow some more influences and grow some more inspirations and really kind of pull and create music that people are familiar with, knowing what that sample is or knowing what that
so what give me some examples. What are you getting deep into? You're in Dallas, as a musician, you're killing it, you're saying I'm gonna go deep on some actual artist.
Let me think. Definitely the Isley Brothers. Which it's not like I didn't listen to them before, but I didn't listen to them with the right ear before.
Totally, yeah. You didn't listen and say, "What am I going to rip off? What are they doing?" Yeah. That's a different type of listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, what am I going to sample to make it sound like I'm not sampling it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so I some of that and like some Roy Ayers, some of your like Lonnie Liston Smiths. That's when I really kind of started paying attention to that. And of course, Snarky Puppy, the people that are there in Dallas. Corey Henry and those guys. So else, let me think. I'm drawing a blank, but that was kind of like basically where that was at. But I had a friend who, because we were kind of back in my hometown at this time, because I'm still trying to figure out what to do after I kind of abandoned my visa mission. And a friend of mine was also in between his bachelor's and his master's, so we wrote books in our hometown. And we're like, And my friend was like, my dad was really surprised that you're still here. He was like, shouldn't they be out in like LA or something?
I was gonna ask that, yeah.
And I was like, oh, come on, you can make it anywhere. This is welcome to the digital age. Like that kind of like thing that people say. Like,
yeah, I remember thinking that when I was younger.
Yeah,
sorry.
Right.
I'm in LA, so.
Right. Do we all kind of, and so you kind of like, I'm drinking that Kool-Aid or serving him that Kool-Aid. Totally. Like, oh no, like we're in.
Well, it's that thing too. If you conquer a town too, you get comfortable, and you're like, I'm now comfortable. I know the good musicians. I'm going to cool jams. Like, why would I want to leave and go to LA and it's back to being the smallest fish in the biggest pond?
I personally was like, I could see the ceiling. So that's really what, because Cape Town and Dallas, I had experience in both places where I was like, oh, there's a ceiling. Like, you're doing this, and it's like, that's it.
Totally.
So some of those incredibly prolific musicians I was telling you at this jam, like, you know, they kind of like acted like it was their turf, and it was actually foolish about it. I'm flashing back to those crab stuffed jalapenos I used to have at the Free Man. Anyway, they had this jam one day, and I went, you know, because they would have them every week, but, you know, I went to this one, and they were like, oh man, we're so excited to celebrate the anniversary of his jam. It's the 12th anniversary of our jam.
It just hits you all of a sudden. You're like, yeah.
I was like, and then not too long after, I was like hanging out somewhere, and there was a chick who, I think she just spotted me. She kind of like saw me like grinding and doing different things and trying to like come up in this world or whatever. And then she was kind of a little bit further along, a little more senior. She was a part of a prolific kind of musician family that people in Dallas like know these cats like pretty well. So she was one of those siblings. And she kind of like, you know how when people talk to you and then you realize, oh, okay, you're trying to reason with me. Like you're trying to explain to me something. You're trying to like tell me something because you want to kind of save me in a way.
Totally.
So she didn't say it like explicitly, but she was talking about this wave. She was like, oh, the wave, you know, and because, you know, we all know that these people in Dallas can play their ass off. It's madness. Yeah. And then she made a phrase of like rotting in the wave. And I was like, that sounds fucking crazy. It's a
great phrase.
Yeah. It's like something that doesn't leave you. You're like, oh.
Yeah, because you're still being moved somewhere. You're like, I'm making progress. I'm going. I'm part. But where's the wave going to go? And
yeah.
You're not gonna be
and then you're sitting there, you know, shriveling up and stuff. And so I was, oh no, that sounds pretty intense. I don't really want to do that. And so I went to, I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, I could try going to LA. I could try it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like flew here for like a week, to kind of like just smell the air, touch the grass, and eat the food.
What was that like? Was that your first time in LA?
Yeah, it was my first time in LA.
Okay. I need to hear you got to hear the raw reaction. You know, you've been to South Africa, you know, Brazil, you know, Texas.
I went to a restaurant and had like the worst chips and salsa I've ever had in my whole life. It was in Hollywood.
So you can't come from Texas.
Yeah, it was like the worst I've ever had in my entire life. I didn't even know chips and salsa could get that bad. The salsa was like tomato sauce or something, you know, and the chips. I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. I don't know. But then like as I was eating it, I was like, and it was the background's going. And I was sitting there with my chip, and I was like, you know, then the kind of like colors just started kind of like synesthetically like dancing all around me in the middle of this restaurant, and me and this like hard, disgusting chip. And it just came to me, no, it isn't over until it's over. If I can eat this chip, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can, you know, this chip is a struggle. In LA, it might be a struggle too, but it's not over till it's over. So why don't I just try it? And so then I moved.
Okay, so that restaurant, that ship experience, boom, you were convinced.
It was like, yeah.
Nice.
It was like, saw the light.
Did you already know some people out here? How did you how do you find friends in a scene?
I knew like one person that I went to college with, but this is weird. This chick and I like have ended up on the same corner of the world like a weird number of times. Yeah. Like we were like, we had lunch in Cape Town. We went to school in Austin. We have family like in various like random corners of America that we like didn't even realize. And then we were both in LA. Nice. It's like madness. But shout out to Campbell. But we that was one person that I had dinner with. I was like vibed. I was like, okay, cool. Nice, yeah. That was pretty much it though. So when I came out here, I lived in one of those like pods.
Oh, nice. Oh yeah, you're really going for it then. I love that.
Yeah, I was going for it. But interestingly enough, when I moved out here, there were like other people that kind of moved at around the same time. Most of them have left since then, but it was kind of like people would kind of pass through. Like sometimes I would recognize someone. I was like, oh, I know you. Like da da da. And oh, they just here to try it or whatever, and they would maybe stay for a couple months and leave. But but zooming in on the pods thing, so I like came here and I like drove here in my car with like all my belongings in there, and I like parked it and I went into, you know, to live in this shoebox in a big house or whatever. And it was like it's been like mayhem ever since. Yeah.
I was going to say, if you go to a pod full of people moving to LA, remember you're surrounded by a lot of other people who are dreamers and going for it. And so you're surrounding yourself with the most ambitious people and the most delusional people ever, which is good and bad. One of the best parts about LA.
Well, the part is really interesting because I feel like this is where I get kind of high horsey. You have to excuse me for being such a stuck up, you know, whatever, what have you. But some people, I don't know, like they think they're ambitious, but like they're vibing. Like some of the people that I kind of saw flying. There was a chick that I knew that dabbed 24 hours a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Like she had that device.
The Puffco Peak?
Yeah, whatever this is, that she had the torch, and she would just be sitting there. No, torch like really seriously dab 24/7. Like anytime I saw her, she's like, oh, hey, just.
Yeah. And just talking like, I'm going to make it.
I don't even know. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like, this was the first Wag Me. This was my first Wag Me experience. And so, yeah, so like that was so it had been tumult like that whole particular time period because I had to like learn a little bit more about myself, like who I am. I had to learn about that like everybody in the music industry is full of shit. Like I had to learn that like here I am thinking like, oh, I got to do all this to be good enough for these people, but I'm like, oh no. These people have to be worth my time, and most of them are not. I had to deal with either people who were like really, really incredible musicians, but terrible, like maladjusted in life. Yeah. Or people that were better adjusted in life, but not very good musicians, and then had a chip on their shoulder about that. So I was like, who do I, deal with in terms of like kind of networking and teaming up and stuff like that? Because so much of living here is about kind of like being in a team or kind of that sort of thing. And, all that network across and, all that rhetoric, to me, it was almost kind of, that word disingenuous is the bane of my existence. I'm trying to find another one. Like it's just unbecoming maybe, because it's like so many people that are prolific enough to be in those big stages just simply aren't because they don't have the connections. So you're telling them to network across, but really they're networking down, and they're ending up in a cage, But I would be remiss to mention that, like when I got here, it was like chaos, like as far as like the world. So like I get here in January 2019, and then like, right. So March 2019, Nipsey Hussle dies, right? In July 2019, Ross G dies, and people who know Ross G know how cataclysmic of an event that was. And I think, who was that guy? No, I'm sorry, I feel so bad because I feel like everybody knows him, but I didn't really know who he was. Pop Smoke?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, died. Kobe Bryant died.
Yeah.
And then we had a pandemic.
Yeah.
Like it's just totally.
Yeah.
Like and so all of those things have been interesting in terms of just like, well, I don't even know how to even wrap my brain around the creation 100%. Process. Like mentally it was just like a saga, totally. That sort of thing. But
welcome to a new city. Go stay in your room. Figure out what's going on. Also, there's riots outside, and the news is going to be worse every day. And figure out what's going on with your life. Yeah.
Right. Oh, and also your car got broken into 3 times.
Yeah. Oof, yeah.
And there's a ticket on it. Good luck. Like, it was a beat down for years. Totally. But I have pulled out some pretty good projects. I don't feel like the best of me is here yet. Like I don't feel like I've crossed into the apex that I would like to. Totally. But overall, I'm glad I made the decision. And fast forward, it's been almost 5 years since I moved here, and
I can't believe the pandemic's been that far away too.
I don't like when people act like we didn't have a pandemic. That is like very annoying to me.
Yeah.
They'll be like,
I was here. I was riding my bike around, like just going during chaos and destruction. I watched Venice Beach go crazy. It was wild.
Oh yeah, I was living in MacArthur Park at the time.
I didn't leave Venice, but I wonder what that was like. But
that was something. I don't know, man. I think just people got psycho. Like people's brains kind of like didn't come back.
Still. They're showing that right now with a lot of. There's a thing, right? There's pandemic kids and pandemic pets, and there's all these issues of like if you were at some formative time during that time, like things are different. If you don't go outside for years, guess what?
Actually, there's definitely like some friends of mine have a pandemic pet, and it's like he can't be outside. Like he starts having a panic attack. It's like, and I'm like, dude, I feel you. Like, and I just, for me, I have been wanting to find a place where I can kind of do what I was doing at my mom's house in Dallas, which is close the door, turn my music on loud, and work on it for 6 hours.
Totally, yeah.
But this is a place where that doesn't really necessarily happen so seamlessly. Totally. So that's like my biggest goal right now. Like I had a lot of like, I guess, things I wanted to try and things I wanted to do and ways I wanted to blow and ways that I saw that, wow, the way that real people really live their lives whenever they're very big and famous or something, or whenever they're very when they're like the it person, and kind of like life revolves around them a little bit when they have that pull, or when they have that power, or when they have the esteem and the money and the whatever, what their life is really like and what their mindset is really like. And so it definitely made me a little bit less like attached to that potential outcome.
Totally, yeah.
Not necessarily to say that I don't aspire to it, but it is to say that it's not like, it's okay, I'm not gonna stress about it. Like, I'm not gonna worry about if I need to, have I done well if I've made it to that point, So, I kind of trailed off. All that is to say, actually, I can't remember what I was talking about.
I feel like it's one of those musician things too. You start looking, there's a comparison problem that we all have, right? You start looking at people, and then it's hard too, because like if you're going for it, and then one friend takes off, and it's really hard not to be like, why not me?
I'm not gonna hold you. I had some experiences to where I saw the other side of that, and I got to a point where I don't envy that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's definitely happened to me on a number of occasions where it's like, oh, you kind of are like in the same cohort with a friend, and they kind of start outdoing you, and more people are listening to them than you, and things like that. But in my experience, especially now, right, we don't live in like the album era anymore, where they, someone's coming up and then they're up and then they're gone, like, and then you're never gonna see them again, type thing. No, they still like drive the same car, and they live in the same kind of lifestyle. They have more presence on social media, or they have higher numbers on Spotify, but their lives and associations don't change the way they think it does.
Totally.
And so I found a number of occasions where, this dynamic would happen, and then the friend would start like acting different.
Yeah.
Like they were big shit now, and they don't need this person, and you start to see like, dang, I saw you as a friend, but you saw me as competition, and now that you're winning it, oh, okay, interesting. You're winning the competition in your own mind, and now everybody's a peon.
Yeah.
Interesting. But then their numbers plateau, and then their the viral video stops pulling, and the network opportunity that they had isn't quite doing it as much, and seeing that, like, it's interesting seeing them kind of go from, okay, ambitious, like we want to do this thing, okay, they're up, and okay, now they're kind of acting a little. It's like it's not that serious for you to be like changing your entire personality. And then you kind of become corny, and then it's like, well, where do we go from here? Because I'm not gonna forget.
Well, it's also that problem too these days, like where we are so much more connected to like musicians' day-to-day life because of social media. So when you start acting like bougie, you're like, I thought you were a musician I supported. Now you're some rich kid, and it's like, I don't feel related to you. These songs about heartbreak used to mean something, but now it's like, I see you like flexing on other people. It's like, how do I trust your emotions? But
that's a fact. It's like, these days musicians are, oh, we're going to build community with your fans, and we're going to start a Discord, and we're going to, like token gating access with NFTs and like stuff like that, building that relationship with like your super fans. And so they feel like they're a part of you, and then like you pop off, and then you act like it's over. Okay. All right. It's been nice knowing you. Yeah. And it's like, and
that's wild. Why wouldn't you want all your friends to be really successful? You have successful friends. That's so cool.
There's some people, it's like, no, there really are some people where it's like, I don't even know if these people have friends. Like they have, they have people that they can use potentially. And I had to learn that the hard way, that you can't, especially out here, like you got to worry about your friends, because a lot of times the friendship only works insofar as there is a potential to use you up.
Totally.
And I mean use you up. Use you is not enough. And so, so I personally, it freed me though, because, as a producer and as a composer and all this different kind of stuff, there was all these different ways I was trying to make music and to kind of like appeal to this mass or that mass, and, this sort of thing. Oh, because I want to do this to come up, I want to do that to come up. But now it's like, well, if it's going to just kind of be like, then who cares?
Yeah,
like,
totally, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just make my thing. And of course, like I was saying, my explorations into like, like I'm in Alice Coltrane's like top 0.01% listeners on Spotify,
wow,
like
nice,
stuff
nice,
like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't play about this. And like I kind of did aspire to kind of be something like that. Like, do I want to be your favorite rapper's favorite musician? Perhaps so. Like, do I want to be, your, oh my gosh, that song that you heard, it sampled me, because I was in this thing doing this, kind of really building on the pantheon of the tradition of what music really is and what it's supposed to be. And I could start throwing all these different words, the geopolitics, the cartography, the the mantras and all that different kinds of stuff. But I know it's a bit esoteric. We were kind of talking more technical and vibes, but I want to continue that tradition. I want to kind of like
totally. Well, I think there's like a couple of ways for musicians to think about it. I think it relates to art too. Of sometimes you study music, you always start thinking in context of history and like, okay, wow, John Coltrane did this or Alice Coltrane did this, Miles Davis did that. They changed music this way. It's like, how do I change music? Okay, what's the full of history? True. And you're in your brain, like, and then there's the other people who are just like, what's popping right now? Ooh, I could do one of those. And it's like both of them are like, it's really tough because if you consciously think about how do I change the world, that's a great thing to think, but it can't influence you to not do your like authentic thing.
That's for real. So. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I definitely feel like way too strong of an obligation to like connect to the story of the world. Like now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I have to like actually separate the story of me from the story of the world. I want to articulate my story and my music and my experiences, not necessarily the kind of world at large narratives that like, oh, a person is altruistic if they contribute to this. Oh, totally. A person is like, this is a litmus test of like moral correctness if you make sure you like address these three things about society. And that's very new for me. I don't know how, exactly I'm going to do it, but I'm working on a project right now that I feel like I'm doing pretty good at in regards to that stuff. But I'm kind of pulling everything out. Like, it's kind of like, I worked on like microtonal modulation the other day. Nice. Like I'm like really like, okay, all right, here we go. Like this is just going to be what it's going to be. And it's going to alienate a lot of listeners because it's going to be kind of, probably, what's the word?
Challenging.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Like, I'll wake you up a little bit, and that sort of thing. But I'll try to be kind of as secular as I can, but it'll be a long shot, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually one of those friends that I force a lot of friends to listen to microtonal music, including I've done it to him, these guys, the producers here, multiple times. And it's one thing you always hear people, they don't know how to wrap their heads around it right away. Right. You don't know what I'm not used to, like, even, what do I like about this? What do I not like about this? They don't have, like, the vocab. And I always tell people, kind of like turn your brain off for a little bit and just, like, don't think, stop thinking, stop. I know it's weird. And just give it some time. Your brain's going to figure stuff out, but it's we want to intellectualize stuff so fast or put it into a box.
That's something that's I do feel like people describe things as like a defense mechanism. Yeah. Like I have a very good friend of mine who I had lunch with just yesterday, but I was showing him something of mine, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, you do this and you do that. I was like, can you stop describing it and listen to it?
That is such
because, like, can you just relax? I think that I don't know. I don't know what makes people feel beneath it in some ways, and so they start having to, talk about all the parts of it that kind of like shows that their authority. That's always been a really weird thing about like society, especially as it pertains to music and like ethnomusicology. I've heard people that are prolific musicians, incredible at what they do, and then they will explain what they're doing, and then this interviewer or this person that's asking them, I never heard this person before in my life. I don't know what music that they play. I don't know what compressors they proselytized about in the past 5 minutes. But then they sit there and try to explain this person's music back to them. And it's like, what are you talking about right now? What is even happening? I think like as this particular project unfolds and like this epoch of upper reality, this is like one of my old shirts from 2019, but this epoch unfolds, that's gonna be like the thorn in my side. That's gonna be the thing that kind of like I have to like kind of sit and relax and not like like say something right back, because it's like I know you're speaking from a place of pain, but you are irritating me type thing. Right,
and it's you want to prove music knowledge of like, I recognize those references. Oh, are you influenced by this? I'm like, see? I'm smart too. I told you I'm smart. I'm not out of it. And you.
That's a really vibey step. People can't do that. High five.
Okay, it's okay. Awesome. The therapy's going great.
Yeah, we nailed it. Yeah, we got to call.
Yeah, my therapist. Yeah.
In that case, maybe Now I really want to listen to your music because
no, you're not going to hear anything. We'll play some tunes afterward that are for other people.
That's cool. That's cool.
So you did mention one thing on the token gating. So we should maybe touch on it just a little bit.
Oh yeah, I know we're doing this thing about like this thing called Web3 and this stuff like.
It's the least important part. Music's the most important. That's the problem too. Is like you should talk about music the whole time. Like okay, we can talk a little bit of Web3 stuff, but it's like really, if your music's not good, who cares about any of the rest?
Right.
Literally none of it matters. Like, 'cause I think people a lot of times are thinking about Web3 stuff. They're like, I'm going to fix the model. What are your songs? Well, I'm going to fix the model. And then, after I have my fans in my Discord and they pay me a lot, I'm going to write some hits for them. And it's like, so when were you first exposed and what's been like kind of your relationship with this whole wacky world?
So when I was living, that's actually a long story. Okay, so first of all, I was dating this boy in 2012. That's like how far I have to go. That, his economics teacher at his school was like knew what he was talking about and mine didn't. She was like this young chick. She was maybe like now what my age is now, and like didn't know. She thought she was teaching English, like, but I needed to pass the AP test so that I could get the exemption when I started college because I didn't want to have to retake the class. That's not the reason. But it was an incentive for us to talk about a lot about economics because I'm like, can you show me your study guides? Can we just whatever, right? And so he starts talking these things through with me. And then like, he's like, oh, wait 1 second. And he like goes to his computer and he's like doing something. What are you doing or whatever, you know? And oh, real quick, can I go and come right back? I don't know what he's doing, right? And he comes back and he's like, yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of this thing called the Silk Road, but it's actually pretty dope. Yeah. And so.
You got introduced by Silk Road by a professor?
No. This is my classmate.
Oh, classmate. Okay, never mind. I was like, what are you talking about? Sorry.
Amazing. The classmates. Sorry. Okay. Wait. Okay. So the dude was not necessarily going to my school. He was going to a different school, and his professor was stronger than my professor.
Okay. Gotcha. So I got you.
Okay. So when he and I were, vibing like teenagers vibe.
Yeah.
Our pillow talk was basically the Silk Road.
Yeah.
And he, at this time, that's
a great early intro. That's a good. You're in it from the beginning. That's great.
Dang near. He was like, oh yeah, they use this thing called Bitcoin, and I'm like, Bitcoin, Oh yeah, it's a coin, but it's actually worth like $200. And I'm like, oh okay. I don't really know what that is, but okay.
Yeah.
And he's kind of telling me about mining and like blockchain a little bit. And okay, all right, I know what it is.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like just in my spirit, kind of from there. And of course, I went on to major in economics. I like the subject. And so then when I went to South Africa, Bitcoin was the talk.
Really?
People were chatting about it because it has a totally different context in the global South. Like
100%.
What they're doing with Web3 and Bitcoin are like what they're the frameworks that they're building is like so far outside what we've got going on in the States. Like they're like in the fifth dimension. And so we had a lot of conversations about it. We kind of understanding. I'm like, okay, so it's in my mind. I got it, and it crashed out a little bit in 2018. So it was kind of like, okay, cool. So then pandemic hits and we're, Clubhouse pops up.
Of course.
And so then it was like, okay,
we're back.
Right. And of course, Bitcoin started doing this. Ethereum started doing this. Dogecoin started doing this. Tesla.
We were locked inside. What are we going to do?
Tesla was doing this, and
I remember running to friends in the middle of like pandemic talking, guys, what's going on? He goes, I'm a day trader now. What are you? I'm a Bitcoin trader now. Everyone got a new trading job.
Yeah, and see, I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, I was too broke to do it. I could just watch.
Yeah.
And like watching, sometimes helplessly or sometimes in triumph.
Yeah, totally.
I watched Dogecoin hit 72 cents right before, old dude got on Saturday Night Live. And I had a feeling that they were going to rug it.
Yep.
Like the big wigs was going to sell everything off. But I was like, okay, all right. Anyways, to make a long story a little shorter. So I was on Clubhouse and I was trying to like get these music execs to listen to my music. I had just dropped, or I was looking to drop like this film called Body High. Then y'all should check that out. It's several years old now, but that's my little baby. And it was like an EP film. And I wanted kind of people to know that it existed and all this stuff. And so everybody's like, doing what they were doing in those Clubhouse rooms.
I remember. It was wild.
Yeah. But then I started hearing more and more about it and just more and more about NFTs. Like Steve Aoki had a drop or something, and everybody and their grandmother was, and I was like, what's happening here? What is this? And so I started learning more about it. I had economics background, so I could hear like what they were saying.
Yeah, totally.
And like I thought to myself, like, oh, Jesus, is that you? Is this the time to finally put the two halves of my brain together? And
yeah, totally. Actually, wow.
So I just felt like this was the thing for me. Like, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn all about this. Not necessarily participate, because, again, I was too damn broke. But just learn, and, like, see if I can, like, mint things and, what kind of just stuff I can learn about or see about or hear about and all different kind of stuff. I saw the Bored Ape thing, like, all of that. So I probably like did my first mint in March 2021.
Nice.
But I didn't realize because I
OG status.
A little bit. And you can see it on
is that not before the apes? Apes are April 2021.
It was like right at the beginning. Yeah, I watched that ape literally do this.
Yeah.
I was like, because I saw the ape. I can't remember what price it was at, but I remember it had popped up significantly percentage wise, but it was still like under 4 figures or something like that. But it had popped up. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Huh. Well. Okay. And, kind of going on about my business and turning around, and now it's worth $100,000. You're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
The monkeys? Come on, really?
Yeah. Right. And so, because there was a couple of other ones that was like competing at that time. I can't remember them all, but I was watching it. I was like paying attention. But my personal life was just like I kind of had to hold it down. Like it was the pandemic, and I felt like this was going to be the last chance I ever really had to like do my little personal development and kind of like get into all that stuff. So I was really kind of into that. I got into streaming. I was like on Twitch a lot, and I was like, just really kind of build the infrastructure and the framework. And then with the NFTs, I was kind of doing more visual art and kind of like stuff like that. So I was trying to just. I don't know, and I got more into somatic healing as well. Just all these things were kind of happening at the same time. Like NFTs were coming up, but I always had my ear to it, and I was like always popping up. Okay, so fast forward to the end of 2021. There's somebody in my complex in MacArthur Park. He moves in, like 3 doors down this way, and I meet this guy. Oh, hey, how you doing? Like, oh, you must be new to the complex, because the complex was very like tight knit, especially during the pandemic. Like everybody was like out, all the kids and all that kind of stuff, and there was kind of a drug problem sweeping through there. So like we kind of had to watch the kids. Everybody's parents was kind of going off the deep end. But, he was, okay, somebody that I know or somebody that I've, come to know. You see him around or whatever. And he said he was a producer, and I heard his stuff, and I was like, okay, I mean, I guess you're a producer. I hear it. I wasn't particularly impressed, but then I noticed that he was like really popping off like on SoundCloud, and I was like, interesting. And like, I don't know if I can or should mention the person, but I mean, I appreciate the person quite a bit. But like, he's kind of like very like a low key right now, so I wouldn't want to blow his cover, but basically, he was like a very, very early drop on sound.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so he was like telling me about it, and he was one of the people that had gotten like $11,000, $12,000.
Yeah, totally.
Some people who sold the stuff on catalog for $3K and those charting those kinds of numbers. And I was like, okay, maybe I should get a little bit more involved in this.
Yeah.
So I started paying attention more in these, in the spaces and stuff. And as luck would have it, I didn't necessarily like jump in during the bull run at all. Really, yeah. I didn't really start saying or speaking or being involved until it started to kind of slump down. And it was good timing for me because I really didn't need all that fervor anyway. But yeah, it was interesting to just kind of like watch the space, and it was interesting to watch the rhetoric develop because it had started off as this kind of like everybody was very, very clear on what an NFT was, like financially the role that it played, and it was kind of a primarily financial asset. And I remember that it was like that was the rhetoric, and then it turned into like a way for like artists to like ball out on art in the ways that the algorithm was keeping them from doing. So they kind of like, they could, express their fullest selves through these pieces, and somebody will, finance like their whole lifestyle and stuff like that. Then it kind of like metastasized, and like now it's like then we started getting into that token getting access stuff. It's like now your future fans is going to invest in you and wag me and this is the future because with my NFT you're gonna get backstage passes to my show. I hate token gating access. I just hope that it it's like, that's not the only valuable thing about me.
Totally.
You know, I have other things. What about the music? You know, like, you like that? Like, maybe there's some cost already. Oh, they're like, oh, well, how do we build utility? By making better music. What are you talking about?
Utility is dancing. That's good utility.
Right.
I can dance to it.
Right, exactly. Yes, utility is, I don't know, maybe feel a little happier after you listen to it.
Yeah. That's the best utility I've ever heard in my life.
My God. Ever heard, you know? But, you know, that I was just listening, and just like listening to it all kind of, you know, develop, and then it kind of lost control. Like, people were kind of losing control, and then the reports started coming out like, this place is so toxic, and it's just, oh my God. And then all these big scandals about who ripped off who, and then who was secretly like what. It was like, oh, it's so good. And I was kind of glad at that point that I didn't get in at this time, because it was so. It was like popcorn time. I was like, oh, I'm so curious about this. So I guess now we're in probably late 2022-ish. Yeah, we're probably in late 2022 when things kind of like hit the apex of bad. Mm-hmm. And so I guess like a lot of people kind of left during that time, kind of scared. It's, forget this, you know, peak pessimism. And so like around that time I started kind of like talking a little bit more, and just kind of like bridging my kind of the basic economic principles that I knew about, like, you know, speculation driving prices. No, guys, there's a reason why they, like, you know, Dogecoin did that. Like, so much of that just had to do with the fact that that's what they said it was. They kept saying $1, and it started trending toward that. It's really actually, you know, that easy, or, you know, as far as ways that you can insist on valuation as an artist. But it wasn't very well received. It really wasn't. Because I started saying stuff like, guys, I know we're talking about like all this stuff, but like, where's the money at? And it would be like, oh my God, how dare you? Oh, what about making the world a better place? Like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, but you guys are minting. You don't know what a mint is?
You're selling stuff, but they don't.
You're minting a one of one coin.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Well, it's just oh my God, never mind. But still though, as much as I could exercise my voice, and as much as I could still kind of just, you know, kind of drive the point that I might not have the same kind of narrative as you guys in terms of like kind of coming up with you and all the Twitter spaces and all the different kinds of stuff. I mean, I was there, but I was also working, blah, blah. But I do know what I'm talking about. Just give me a minute.
No one knows what they're talking about in Twitter spaces, but
no, that's a fact. That was kind of another way I was thinking of saying it. It's like, I was actually thinking everybody knows what they're talking about. There's just no there's no relation, because everybody comes from such a vastly different, different, I don't know what the word is.
It's like experience,
but like kind of like a different flavor of the background and different kinds of stuff. And I kind of was like, y'all, didn't we not come here to make money? Like, what do we come here for?
Yeah.
But it was like, I don't know. I came here to make money. I don't know about the next person. I came here because, you know, all that stuff. Oh yeah, that was one of those rhetorics too. It's like, this is finally the chance for artists and musicians to enter the middle class. Mm-hmm. I was like, the middle class. You just made $11,000 off a drop. What are you talking about? There's something not right here. And so, so that's just kind of been the journey up until now. I have stuff like minted on a lot of stuff like OpenSea and Zora, and of course like Catalog and Sound. It's very low price on Sound, but it's all in there, you know. Did I mint on anywhere else? I had somebody hit me up minting something on Cardano, but I haven't really done it. Like, you know, on a platform that utilizes Cardano. I don't know what it is though. Is there? I feel like there's one that I'm leaving out. Oh well. But yeah, so I kind of like, it's out there, you know, kind of like waiting for the next person to bite. But then just since then, it's just been all about kind of learning the savvy, learning how people talk, bridging the gaps with what we can create, like art and music wise, and just being able to speak my perspective and see where I belong in that sense. Yeah.
You probably did one of some smart things, which is where oh my God, things are going crazy. You didn't hop in right away and say, let me get some money. You step back, observed, and now you don't have a bunch of people who aren't angry at you because you dropped a project during the bull and promised them backstage passes to my stadium tour because it didn't, you know, so.
That's actually true. I did not even anticipate how lucky I felt like I was going to be. Like, I'm at a point right now, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, you know, people are mad about like feeling rugged. People, people have, you know, been forced to kind of drive their prices down. People feeling like, I don't know, kind of like joining in these little collectives and they're not getting paid. And like, you know, the world is run by VCs, like kind of like, you know, the door gets blown open on that part. And people are, I also felt like, this is like a very hot take of mine, but I felt like some of the people that were representatives of some of these, like, especially like the music and art platforms, it was definitely giving like, I don't know, I don't want to say diversity spokesperson because the person themselves is more valuable than that. I'm not trying to say that that's not the case, but I did feel like that they were being used by these platforms. And I was kind of like, feel like I was watching them kind of get exploited for their image and their belief in the movement and their, you know, commitment and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't really like that. Like, you know, let me just get my money and go home kind of thing. Or whenever that time, if that time ever does come that I can, you know, kind of put my hat in the ring. So hopefully moving forward, I might see a little bit less of that because that was like not my favorite thing.
Totally. Well, here, maybe for the moving forward, before we wrap up, you want to just tell like anyone who's now like heard this conversation, they want to check out your work. Like, what are you working on next? Like, how do we like, you know, get obsessed with upper reality?
Oh, that's a good question. So when I'm in my right mind, I stream Mondays and Thursdays. I might stream tomorrow. I might. Nice. So that's going to be on Twitch, Hype Shot, YouTube, Kick, or Twitter. That's kind of like I kind of do the restream thing. Nice. And Mondays it's at 4:30 PST. Thursdays 3:30 PST. You can also check out Upper Reality on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all of those fun things. Like I said, there's 7 EPs on there, so you can hear stuff where it's like basically 5 songs, you know, 5 or 6 songs times 7, so I guess that's 40 something songs. You'll hear that, you know, all the work from 2016 up until now. And I'm also an avid like poster like on Instagram and TikTok. Like there's a lot of pieces that I put on there that I'm like, I want this to be a minute long. So like if you want to hear some of my more contemporary stuff that I have like, you know, in this mind, you can hear that stuff on TikTok. You can hear it on Instagram. You can hear it on like YouTube Shorts sometimes whenever I'm feeling myself on that. And yeah, that's like the rundown of like where everything is at right now. Have a look see at the catalog and go to catalog or Zora or Sound or Zora or and you can kind of see some of my more what my world building looks like in the kind of Web3 NFT flavoring and I really run my mouth a lot on Twitter. Lots of hot takes, lots of just table shaking. So if you wanted to have a look see at that, you can peep me on Twitter as well. Just type upper space reality, and it's gonna give you some iteration of me. You'll find me. So
nice. And we'll we'll repost this, and we'll have all the links included there for everyone here.
Love that.
So the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna play a song actually. Okay. So this is I'm Cool.
I'm Cool.
Is that it? So you can get that here lined up, and then we're gonna disappear. But we got a song for you right now. So bye everyone. This is Upper Reality. Enjoy the tunes. If you haven't checked the IRL Alpha episode from last week, Upper Reality dropping lots of hot takes there as well. And fighting with lots of people in a great way. Great show. It was wonderful. So beautiful. Love you guys. We'll see you guys next time. We're going to disappear now and enjoy the song. Bye. I got that heavenly Badu, whatever Babalu, I caught me in yellow shit and call me on shoe, cause I'm cool. I'm cool. I don't fear shit, I don't hear shit. The Kundalini make you feel like you seen a ghost. It casts a spell everywhere that I go. I'm like a star-studded legend, you know. And if you see it in my eyes, you can look a little closer and can feel it from your head to your toe. And energy is so powerful. When all of that